This is the Aston Martin V8. I think it's a Vantage, the AM V8. But anyways, this video is for a customer. We're just kind of going over. We're doing a restoration and wanted to go over some of the problems that we found. Some we had already talked to the customer before, but this is an extension of that. This car obviously has an all aluminum body that's riveted to a steel frame. And part of what we found, I guess I'll go in no particular order, is these rockers are very well rusted. But one problem we have is this is where it's riveted. Of course, there's no steel to rivet the body to. So this is a video of like why we should take the body off. Originally we didn't want to do that, but you obviously won't be able to. Right here is connected still, although the metal is kind of is poor right where it connects. But there's also other reasons. I think it'll actually save time with the body off. We want to replace all this rust, but essentially be working in a hole. It would actually be much faster and easier if the body wasn't in the way, if the aluminum wasn't in the way. We do have some signs of frame damage from an accident. We already know about that. You can see the front piece is crooked. The suspension has some damage. You can see this rocker is particularly bad. And of course, there's not much holding these rivets to. There's not really any steel behind it. So like this essentially has to come off, so I can replace the steel behind it to have something to rivet into. And again, we have the same problem here where this is all rusty, and it's hard to see, but there's surrounded by the aluminum body. And if it was open, it would actually be repaired much faster, much easier. We know we had the rusted floors. That's not a concern, but as far as the accident goes, what concerns me is there's still all this buckling. Like the floor is all buckled in several places. It's probably not showing up very well on here, but here's another spot where the body rivets, where there's not much. There's really not a lot of steel there to rivet the body to. So one area we have a concern about is we can see that the rear tire's been rubbing. Rear tires rubbing here, and this was they had welded a bolt head here for the shock. There's a shock mount, and a bolt goes through, and this steel is extra thick and supports. So it makes like a U bracket, essentially, that supports the other end of the shock bolt. But of course, the bolts can't stick out because it rubs against the tire, so they put the bolt flush and then welded it, so I had to cut it out. This hole should be significantly smaller, but it's the only way I can get it to move. Here's another area that'd be easier to fix with the body off. So we get into like the battery tray, and that is all would be very visible. And of course, the body rivets to the steel also. There's not any steel there to rivet the body to. And here it's kind of hard to show, but you can see, if I can get this right, there's a seam where they had put a new quarter panel on this. It goes well off into the trunk. That is why there's so much Bondo in here, because they didn't weld the two panels together. They put one on top of the other and just put a ton of Bondo to make the seam. And then of course they have the Bondo all the way up there. I'm not sure why. I don't know if that's been damaged or if they just needed to start that far back to be able to smooth the Bondo over here. And some other things that are kind of curious. Obviously this side, it's not rubbing at all. You can see the shock hole is offset, but it's tremendously smaller. So the thing of note here is that this is where the spring attaches for the rear suspension. You can see it sticks out, whatever, like that much. We go on the other side, and the springs are identical, the suspension's identical side to side. And this is like hanging down double the length. You can actually see how far away this is from touching. So one side had much more greater spring rate than the other, and it's something I need to look into because I think that's unusual. There's kind of something strange going on there. And then here's the passenger rear floor. You can see, it's hard to see in the photo, but this is all buckling here. This whole thing is misshapen. I know we're replacing it because of the rust, but for some reason, well, this car, we know it's been an accident. It looks like it's been a bit worse than we had thought it would be initially. So these floors shouldn't be buckled. They're surrounded by steel everywhere. So there's something going on. I'd rather take the body off and look at the structure underneath and straighten everything and then put the body back on. But we wanted to talk to you before we do that. All right, that's it for today.